Hello and welcome to another edition of the Back Nine Report, where every week Fred Altvater and I check in on the world of golf to bring you the latest news, insights, analysis, interviews, recaps, previews. Hey, we cover anything and everything golf. In other words, if it happened in golf, we have it for you. And this week, we're going to talk about the keys to winning the Ryder Cup. And we have Kieran Clark, the European golf guru, with us here. Kieran, hi, how are you today?
I'm very well, Carlos, and I'm very, very excited about the Ryder Cup. Obviously, we've waited 3 years for this edition of it. Europe defending over at Whistling Straits. Obviously, the American team is stacked on paper. So much talent, a changing of the guard, so much freshness, new players, exciting players, top-ranked players, and versus a very experienced European team. They've gone for the old guard against the new guard, and this is going to be a fascinating battle where so often in these cups, Carlos, teams are very evenly matched and they're very similar in terms of their makeup and how their the demographics and so on. But this one here, we have a distinction between the two teams. It's 5 years difference in age and over 20 in terms of the world ranking position average wise. So two very distinctive teams coming from a different perspective, and we'll wait and see which one comes out on top. And if the American team can win here with a new team, they can set a new era for them into the new decade. Europe are still living in the previous decade, but can these guys just have one last hurrah? The likes of Poulter, the likes of Westwood, can they do it one more time in the USA? If they can, it might just be their biggest achievement yet. So it all promises to be really, really intriguing.
Because of the age, you might say they're still living in the past century, but that's for another.
Oh, that's harsh. That's very harsh.
Oh man, that's not. Anyway, Fred, hi, how are you today? And let's talk about the course. They're going to be playing in Whistling Straits, and I was reading on the Ryder Cup page that when it's a golf course, not a golf course, and that is when it's a stadium. So how about Whistling Straits and how it's set up for this Ryder Cup?
Yeah, well, I've had the opportunity to be there a couple different times, and it's a phenomenal place. It's just unbelievably beautiful. But it's hard to believe that 500, a little more than 500 acres, 540 acres, began as a level field. There was nothing there. And Herb Kohler wanted to build something that kind of resembled Ballybunion from Ireland. He wanted to, bring in that kind of the hills and that kind of look. And so he got Pete Dye to come in and he gave him an unlimited budget. Would you like to have an unlimited budget to build a golf course, Carlos? He gave him an unlimited budget, and he always said, you know what? And Pete managed to exceed it. They had tremendous arguments over what was going to happen. There were trees that Herb wanted to keep. Dye went ahead and knocked them down, then jumped on a plane and left town before Herb could see it and get mad about it. It was a phenomenal feat. Over 13,000 trucks hauled sand and stone in there to build this thing. It's kind of like a stair step from the coastline. The holes along the coast, and then every hole kind of steps up from there. They run back and forth, and so from pretty much every hole you can look out over Lake Michigan. It's really an engineering feat. It's really beautiful. It's fantastic to see. Those holes that seemingly hang out there on the cliff along the edge over the water are really beautiful. But I got to tell you, it's like Mr. Dye, any course you play, it's visually intimidating, but there's really more room there to hit it to than it looks like. If you can get the ball in the air and carry it 150 or 200 yards, there's plenty of room to hit it. So these guys won't have any trouble with it. Yeah, there'll be a ball or two that go over the cliff and get lost from an errant shot, but there won't be too many. Most of them will find grass. There'll be a lot of birdies made. It'll be very competitive. Weather looks good for the week. It's going to be a little bit cool, top out in the mid to high 60s. A little breezy probably coming off the lake, but no rain. It should be dry, so it should be very, very good. The course looks great. They cut the rough down, so it's going to give these bombers from the United States hopefully a little more of a chance. But like the Europeans always play for the fairway anyhow, so what makes the difference?
Hey, Kieran, let's talk about Team Europe. I mean, winning 9 out of the last 12, whether it's better unity, better game plan, better whatever else it is.
Better everything.
they figure out something and have been winning. What are the keys to victory for Team Europe this year?
Well, this year's a bit different because they're playing, a formidable American team, a newer American team, a younger American team against an almost universal home crowd. And that's a challenge that no other European team has really faced. And that's why Padraig Harrington, who is an incredible figure, and if his team plays like he did as a golfer, then they've got a great chance of winning because he's someone who overachieved and exceeded all expectations and achieved great things without the talent, hard work, dedication, perseverance, and analysis. And that's what he was as a player. That's why he's a three-time major champion. If he can impart that philosophy into his players, then they could be very hard to beat. So this European team has to be at its absolute best. It has to do better than its potential because these guys, the older guys, the guys lower down in the rankings, the guys who haven't played that well in the past year or so, the likes of Fleetwood, Tyrrell Hatton even, haven't been quite at their best in the past few months. They have to exceed that. They have to come here and fulfill their potential and beyond. And there's every chance to do that because the European team so often does it. But for their keys to succeed this week, Carlos, you need, first of all, your big players to play well. There's no bigger player than Jon Rahm, the world number one, a guy who could become a talisman for potentially the next 2 decades in the European team. If he comes and plays to his absolute best, his fearsome best, who wants to play Jon Rahm in a match play scenario? I mean, my goodness, look at the putts he's holed at the US Open or last year when he battled Dustin Johnson in the FedEx Cup. This guy makes great things happen. He has that ability to will the ball into the hole. If he can channel that here, he'll be the leader on the course for Europe. Then Rory McIlroy, now a veteran of these matches. We all know how good he can be. On his day, he's still one of the best players in the world. And he's going to, I think, embrace his kind of senior statesman-like role in this team. So if those two players can be at their best, that gives the other guys a great deal of inspiration to go and fulfill their potential. Then you're looking at the more seasoned players, the legends, Garcia, Poulter, Westwood. Casey isn't quite there in terms of his status, but in his age and experience, he certainly is. Can they roll back the years and have one last great hurrah? If they can do that, then Europe has a great chance, and it will inspire the younger players. Hovland, Wiesberger's not young, but he's a great winner on the European Tour. This is all new for him, though. The likes of Hovland and him, and even Fitzpatrick coming back here after 5 years. If the older guys can roll back the years one last time, then it gives Europe a great chance. But I think the European team, Carlos, will be very strong. I think they come together really well, pairings-wise, collectively. They always play well. They very rarely disappoint. These guys know they've been here before. I think they'll put up a really, really strong fight. And I think the question is, and the question for Fred is, will the USA, will their performance reflect their standing in the game? Will they manage to come together, not as individuals, but as a collective unit? If they can do that, they'll be hard to beat. But that's the real unknown question. I expect Europe to play well. The USA, I think the ceiling for the USA team is actually higher than the European team. But I just don't know if they'll get there. I think to me that's the unknown question. I expect Europe to be really, really strong, Carlos. The USA, they could be fantastic, but who knows? I mean, any result here, and we will make our prediction shortly, but any result here would not surprise me. It could be a narrow win either way. It could be a comfortable win either way, and I wouldn't be shocked. I see these two teams as being very different in their makeup. That makes it intriguing and compelling, and in some respects, hard to call. So I think I'm not looking forward to making our prediction because I'm still on the fence. I'm not too sure. But I think Team Europe, Carlos, will play very well. But one thing that's really important, though, I think to win here, every player has to contribute. 3 years ago in France, every European player, all 12, won a point, at least. I think for them to retain the trophy this time, they'll probably have to do the same here. So I think every player has to perform. And if they do that, then the American team will find that 14.5 points to get to win. It's going to be very hard to achieve. So it's going to be really, really fascinating, Carlos.
Right. The Americans are always off to or at least the US has won 5 of the last 6 opening sessions, with the other being a tie. So the overall score for those opening sessions for US 17-7. how they keep losing, that is incredible, right? Especially when you consider that the Americans, because they have the better individual talent, should be roasting the Europeans on the single session. But what do you think they have to do other than starting fast to complete those 14 and a half points?
It really boils down to, you know what? A lot of times the captains get too much praise when they win, and they get too much controversy when they lose. But I'm telling you what, I really think Steve Stricker has put himself really squarely in the spotlight on this thing. If they win, if the American team wins, I really think it's because of Steve Stricker. Number one, his personality. He's low key. He's not, a prima donna. He's getting everybody involved, and they're preparing. He's not, making this a big deal. It's just do your thing, be prepared, and let's go. Just play your game. And I think that's really important. You got these young guys; they're going to be hyped up anyhow. So you got to bring them down a little bit and say, okay, just play your game. So, and I think the real key for the American team is twofold. Number one, they really have to do well in the foursomes and the four balls on the first 2 days. They can't go into Sunday 2 or 3 points down like they come out of these team matches all the time. And I really think that boils down to Xander Schauffele and Patrick Cantlay make a formidable team. And I really think Jordan Spieth and Justin Thomas make a really strong team for both foursomes and four ball. If those two teams can get 4 or 5 points out of the 4 sessions, that will go a long ways to making it a lot easier on Sunday. Because when you get to Sunday with the singles, of the 12 singles, probably the U.S. they could get maybe 7 or 8 points out of that. They could win the session, or they could get 4 clear wins, and they could get a bunch of halves and be the clear winner in the singles. But it's these team deals where they have to pick up some points and do better than what they've been doing. So it really boils down to me that Xander Schauffele, Colin Morikawa, Patrick Cantlay, and Jordan Spieth need to come out with about 7 points for the U.S. to have a chance to win the Ryder Cup back. They need 14 and a half. That would be almost half the points among those 4 guys. If those 4 guys play well and get points, I think the U.S. has a real good chance of winning. And I really like what Stricker is doing as far as getting the team ready and prepared. He's taking some risks bringing these younger guys, but I really hope it pays off for him.
Well, if team chemistry is a problem, then you might expect to see some overperformance, in the 4 ball, but on the performance in the foursomes, and that seems to be happening. That's exactly what we have seen with Team USA in the recent years, because over the past 5 Ryder Cups, Europe has the edge in foursomes 23-17, while the US edges out Europe in the 4 ball format 21-19. But for the Sunday singles, which is the surprising thing to me, US in those 5 Ryder Cups is losing 32 to Europe, 32 points for Europe, 28 for Team USA. So even on the singles, Europe has been stronger in this last 5 Ryder Cup. So let's go to the picks, and let's start with you, Kieran.
Oh no.
The Ryder
Cup. Pressure's
Cup.
on me. Why are you doing this to me,
Pressure.
Carlos? This isn't fair.
You got a 50-50 chance this week, Kieran.
Yes. Hey, it could be a tie. So anyway.
Well, yeah. Well, that's. So who's going to win the Ryder Cup? You ask. That's the question you're posing to me. That's the conundrum you're presenting in front of me right now. And if you asked me 2 weeks ago, I would say, yeah, the USA will win this, I think, quite comfortably. But the more I've analysed it, the more I've thought about it, the stronger the case becomes for Europe. I think, you know what, this could actually be really, really close. And I think it will be close, one way or the other. And Fred, you said there is a 50-50 chance. But I actually can't split these 2 teams in reality. And I'm going to go for the thing I've been wanting to see for years. I'm going to say it's going to be a 14-14 tie. And Europe will retain the Ryder Cup. It'll be a draw this time, but Europe will go back across the Atlantic with the Ryder Cup in hand. So I'm going to stick my neck out there and go for the least likely result, which would be a tied encounter. Because I just find it really hard to separate these two teams. But I do think, however, the onus is on America. I think Europe will be really strong and very good. The USA will set the tone. If they come out strong on Friday, I think they'll be hard to catch. It's all about them. They have so much talent, so much potential. Can they fulfill that? If they do that, they'll win. But the European team has just enough experience there, enough nous, enough knowledge of how to succeed in this environment that I think they'll get enough points to be competitive. And you know what? I can't split them. So I'm going to say for the first time since 1989, it's going to be a halved Ryder Cup, 14-14. But Europe will go back home with the Ryder Cup, and the USA will be left with some very difficult questions to answer. Deep philosophical questions. I'm going to pose to you now, Carlos. Who's going to win the Ryder Cup?
Oh my goodness, 14-14. Fred, now the pressure's on you. Who's going to win?
I'm just kind of the opposite of Kieran. When Stricker announced his picks, I was very negative. I was very down. When Padraig Harrington announced his 3 picks, I really thought, okay, Europe's going to win this thing. They're going to win it handily. And I've been thinking that. And then as I got into it more today and doing the analysis and looking at who you could play and where points could come from, when you strip it all down, the United States does have the superior players. And I come back to it, what I said earlier. I really like Stricker's approach to this. I think he's on the right track. As I've gotten back through this, I've kind of done a 180 here, and I'm picking the United States at this point. I think it's not a runaway by any chance. It might be 15-13 or 14 and a half, 13 and a half. 2 points one way or another will probably determine this thing. So I don't think it's going to be a runaway, but I really do think the United States team is so deep. I think they have to win this thing.
We have heard this year after year after year, and still the Europes keep coming on top. To Kieran's point on the 14-14, wow, it's going to be interesting to see, because to me, it wouldn't feel like a victory for Team Europe to go and retain it just because they tied. I don't think they'll feel like winners in that case. They wouldn't even celebrate. Well, we got 14-14.
Well, no, I don't know about that. I think they would enjoy that one.
I'm sorry?
I think Europe would take that right now. I think they'd be quite happy with that.
No. I assure you, if they go 14-14, you'll see, and we can talk about it this next week. They won't feel like winners. That's not how this team is built on. That's not their pride and joy is not that. But I honestly think, and I was waiting to see the picks. I was waiting to see if these players, if they were going to go again for the Europeans on the veteran side. And when I saw they picked Poltz, they picked Sergio, I was like, yes, now we're talking. This is what Team Europe always does. And I think there's going to be an X factor, and this player is going to be Matt Fitzpatrick. I think it's going to be close, but I think Matt Fitzpatrick has a chip on his shoulder, because so much that was wait for him 3 years ago. Not the last time that they lost, when he was a rookie. I think that he's going to be that X factor this year. Plus Poltz and Sergio are going to provide. They're going to win by 1 point, 14.5 to 13.5. Europe is going to win this thing, and that's going to be my pick. So we have 3 different approaches. Fred is saying Europe is going to be roasted by the US, and Kieran picks the tie way. He cop out with the tie. I'm going for Team Europe all the way, 14.5 to 13.5.
And Carlos, can I just quickly say before we go, that was not fixed, people. Listen, viewers, that was not fixed. We had no idea what the other guy was going to choose there. So 3 guys on the show, we've picked 3 different outcomes. That's amazing. There we go. That shows
up until today, I would have picked Europe.
Well, to be fair, I think I would have picked the USA, but until today. So it just shows ultimately, guys, that we don't know what we're talking about, do we? We're just guessing at this point. We're just guessing. So
yeah, we decide right now the end of the show. Let me change now. Let me see. Yes. Anyway, That's our picks. Hope you liked it, and you can roast us. Wait for next week, and we'll pick it up, and we'll see who wins, who loses, win, lose, or draw, because those are the 3 picks here. We'll see who wins. This is gonna be an interesting Ryder Cup this year. So thank you for joining us. Remember to subscribe to our channel to keep up to date with the latest in golf news and information. Also subscribe on Twitter. Our ID is at Back9 Report with the number 9 in the middle. So thank you for joining us.